Hi, my name's Justin. I'm a professional chef by trade. I've been camping for the last year with my family in a 23 DBH. And as a chef, I wanted to try some different things, see what I can do with what we have, and go from there. So for today, we're going to do a Southern classic, some biscuits and gravy, since we're here in Tennessee. And I'm going to cook it over a fire today. So I've got my cast iron skillet here, preheated over the flames, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the biscuits started, since that's going to take the longest. Try that. Now you can make your own biscuits, but I've never been a good baker, so we just use a little bit of canned biscuits, get a little pop. Now you could do this in the oven or the stove, but with it being so hot here in Tennessee, I wanted to give this a try. I think it would add a nice little bit of smokiness to it, another type of flavor to add to your meal here, and just wanted to see if I could do it, to be honest. So that's what we're gonna do. So we got these all laid out. I'm going to cover them with this foil here to try to keep in some of the steam and the heat, protect it from the ash and the coals, and we're going to give that a try. So I've got a nice set of bed of coals here. We're going to get that started. All right. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to try doing the gravy on the Blackstone here, because I don't want to get the heat in the house. So I'm going to do just a tad of oil. Now traditionally you don't add onions and garlic to your biscuits and gravy, but I like garlic and I like onion a lot, so I like to add just a little bit. That sizzle's a good sign. I probably have, I don't know, maybe a teaspoon of garlic here, and probably just over a tablespoon of onion. You don't want a lot, you just want a little bit, just to give it just a little bit of flavor, but not overpower. Because really the star here is the sausage, the black pepper, a little bit of cream. Now I'm not going to use, I didn't use a lot of oil because your pork is going to have a lot of fat to it, and that's really the main star of this show. So just a little bit of oil, and I also have just a little bit of flour here too, so we can make our roux in the pan. So we're just going to let that get down nice and soft. Probably about halfway through it, I'm going to add the pork sausage and let the pork sausage brown up. That means by the time the pork is done cooking, the onions and the garlic will be done, but you don't want them to burn, so you want it to kind of take a little bit of time. And then we're just going to add a little bit of whole milk, some salt and pepper, and we'll be done. So we're going to give this a little bit of time to cook, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I just got a little Bob Evans ground sausage. You could use whatever you would like. This is just what I could find at the time, so that's what I went with. You can also go to a local butcher, and a lot of times they have a nice house blend that's good too. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna mix this in here. Now, when you're doing this, it's not like ground beef. You don't want to mix it too heavy, because you still want those nice little chunks of pork, because that's the whole point of this. So you want to have a nice balance of done up, but not too fine. So, and always remember to wash your hands after handling raw meat, so nobody gets sick. I just checked on our biscuits. They're looking pretty good. I'm going to keep an eye on them a little more closely than I would if they were in the oven, just to make sure we don't ruin them, we don't burn them, and make sure they're actually cooking. So, like I said, I've never done it on this on a fire, so you know, we're all learning together today. So that's 1 pound of pork sausage, and we're going to let that start browning up in this pot here. I'm going to go wash my hands and continue. So I've just kind of been rotating the pan around a little bit, trying to give it that even coat. This side is the little bit hotter side, where I'm pulling the coals from. I don't want it too hot where it's going to burn, but I want it just hot enough. It does look like they're starting to rise, starting to get a little brown. So we're just going to let that keep going. I'm just trying to make sure now it's not going to stick too much. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at our pork now, see how that's going. So it's starting to brown up nice. And the onions have started to caramelize, so is the garlic with some of that fat. But we also don't want to cut this up too much, so try to be easy. Let it go a little bit. You know, let it take its time. Southern cooking's all about low, slow, good flavors, quality product, and that's kind of what we're going to try to do here. So we're going to let this go, and once this browns up, we're going to come back and I'll show you how to make a in-the-pan roux, and we'll add our milk, get that thickened up and seasoned, then we'll check on our biscuits again. Okay, so we're back now. We got a nice, there's not a lot of color on here because it's basically being double cooked through the griddle here, but that's not a bad thing for this application. We got a nice little bit of oil, grease there on the bottom, which we're going to use to make our roux in the pan. And see how they've got some nice chunks. All the pink is gone. So we're going to go ahead. Now, I don't have a lot of flour here, but I'm probably not going to do all of this. This part is going to be more by sight, because if you do it too much, then it's going to turn into glue, and we don't want like wallpaper paste looking. So we're just going to take a little bit of it, sprinkle probably about tablespoon and a half, give or take. And it's going to look kind of weird, I'm not going to lie, but this is what's going to give you that thickness when you add your milk. So it mixes with that. And traditional roux is made with butter and flour, and this we're just going to use the grease from the product. You know, because we're camping, we don't have time for 1,500 pans around here. So, you know what? I'm going to add actually just probably the rest of this flour. That was maybe 2 tablespoons tops. Now, traditionally, when you're making sauces, you want to use regular roux, so that way you can get the perfect thickness as you want. This is a little bit different. This you can adjust after the fact. So now I'm going to move from the whisk, because I kind of got it mixed in here a little bit, and I'm going to use this rubber spatula here to kind of get it mixed in a little bit. Now, what you don't want to do is mush it up too much, but you want to make sure it's kind of mixed in pretty good. It's a hard balance, but it'll be worth it in the end. So that feels pretty good. And I start smelling it. All right, so we just added just a little bit of fresh thyme, just to give a little bit of pizzazz, and we're just kind of getting it up to proper temperature. If you notice, there's a different milk now. Pro tip: always check your dairy products. We bought it from home when we left, and it was 2 days expired. So always check your milk before you add it for something like this, because then now you're ruining everything you just worked up. So I'm going to add roughly cup and a half. Don't mind the dogs. About a cup and a half. Maybe just a little bit more. So now, because we can always add a little bit more. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let the milk come up to a boil. That will activate the flour and stuff that's in there and help thicken it up. Now, if it's a little too thin still, we'll just let it reduce and just let it thicken up that way as well. So we have 2 ways of doing this. I can already tell that this is going to be a decent consistency already. So we're just going to let that go. in my adventure to run to the store to go get some cream, I pulled off the biscuits and kind of just let them coast. And so they got a decent color on them. The edges look a little dark on the bottom. But these being Pillsbury, we can just peel them off, and this will be great on this still. So we're just going to let these kind of hang out, and then we're going to put that over there once that's good to go. I think moving forward, I would have started with a cold pan, and I would have tried to put it in a less hot spot, I guess. Never done it before. I think that's what it was. It works pretty well. I think the problem is just I heated up the pan first, so that kind of started that process a little too quickly. So now we know, next time we won't do that. So we're just gonna let this go, and when this gets to a boil, we're gonna check on it. I'll let you know. All right, so now we are back. We have just started to get nice and thickened. Thickened is not a word. It is thickened now. As you can see, it's got a nice creamy consistency, and that's what we're looking for. Not too thick, not too thin, and we didn't want it like wallpaper paste, like I said earlier. So what I'm going to do now is I turn down the heat because I don't want it to boil. I just want it to lightly cook, maybe like a low simmer. And what I wanted to do is kind of marry all those flavors for the last few minutes. And this is the part where we're going to actually add your seasoning. So give it a try first, just kind of see where you're at. Pretty good so far. So the main thing with this is going to be the black pepper, because that's the second star of this show, right? So we're going to add a decent amount of black pepper, freshly cracked if you can. Another good pro tip is, because we're camping, we have these disposables, but at home, if you have a black pepper cracker, I like to toast my black pepper a little bit till it starts to get fragrant, and then it's a lot more complex, and it's really good. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt. We're going to stir that in, and we're going to let this sit a little bit longer, let those flavors kind of marinate, and then we're going to pull out that little bit of thyme that we got in there, because we don't need to leave it in there. And we'll show you the final result once we're there. Okay, so I got our biscuits right here. They did, like I said, get overcooked. I'm not gonna lie to you, but these being the specific flaky brand that they are, we can just peel them off and put them down. Some people like this kind of stuff. I do not. Actually, this one is probably, oh yeah, this is the one right there. Woo. So we're just gonna go ahead, put them down. I don't need any more than 2 at this point. And as you see, it's a nice consistency, nice and saucy, nice and chunky. So we're just gonna go ahead, always bring the plate to you, and we'll just give that a nice little amount in there. And little southern biscuits and gravy. Now another way you could spice this up a little bit is do a fried egg, then put your gravy, or vice versa. Add a little cheese, you could also do that too. I sometimes like to do a fried egg, the biscuit, and then put all the gravy over top of that. It's very good. So that's what we got for today. Come back next time. We'll see what else we're going to be cooking.